we were talking about something the other day, and I wanted to explore it a little bit further.
It's a mystery currently.
I always like to
What
throw
were
you
we
a
talking
little
about?
curveball. What's he gonna ask
Yeah,
me?
we talk about so much stuff.
But this has got to be a quick one. I only got like 15 minutes or so because
Yeah.
I got to go watch Kung Fu Panda 4. That's the one they're
I
on
didn't even
with
realize
the
there were
family.
four.
No, I wanted to talk about making money,
Mhm.
content creation, video production, photography. We talked about what we wish we knew back when we were in college or whatever. And
Sure.
just to expand on that, kind of words to yourself, maybe words to other people who are looking
In
for
what
insight into
context?
just how to make money,
How to make money?
creating art, working professionally. You had brought up the conversation around, man, I remember in college, I was like, man, I know how to do all this stuff, but how do I get work? How do I get jobs? How do I? So
Right.
what do you have to say now to people who are maybe finding themselves in that same boat now that we've been doing this for 15 years, 20
Yeah,
years?
I mean, it's definitely a lot easier to find work, I would say nowadays, just because media, social media, lends itself well to photography, videography. There's a lot more companies offering services. Um, there was this one company, I'm blanking on the name right now, but it's a very interesting company that partners with restaurants, and they will build out your website. They will provide you photos and video, and they contract work out a ton, right? So there's many ways. I don't know, to skinny cat in that sense of like finding work, but
More
I
people
guess
hiring.
more people hiring like video photography people, but independently, it's you can still find work and do work, but I don't know, maybe picking one thing, I would say, because I kind of learned everything. So I would kind of open myself up to doing, photography for, I don't know, real estate or product photography or weddings or all these things. I think weddings was like the first thing I dropped though, because I knew I didn't want to do that. And then I found myself doing like real estate, and you can, find yourself a niche and, make money in that. But I would say definitely find out what you're interested in first and then play to that strength. Because I feel like if you're a jack of all trades, no one's really going to want to hire you because you're not specializing in one thing. So narrow down what you want first and then figure out how to be the best at that. Probably going to be your best bet, at least getting hired for doing something. I'm finding myself now getting hired more and more consistently for like concert footage, like concert behind the scenes interviews. And I really enjoy doing interviews. Interviews is very easy. It's something that you can always be hired on to do an interview. You don't necessarily have to do all like the whole production, B-roll plus interview. You could just be hired on just to do the interview. And like that's I think one of my specialties. And like I have my go-to kit, like all my lights. So as far as like investing in gear, like I invested in one solid kit that I could knock down pretty much any interview I want. And that's like I said, once you have that kit solidified more or less, then theoretically you can only make money once you like build out that kit. So that's another thing, just knowing what you want to do and then figuring out the exact equipment for that specific job. And then once you do that, you hopefully shouldn't have to like purchase anything else outside of that,
Yeah.
unless you want to upgrade. But
It is interesting because as much as the market has changed, I mean, the struggles we faced in college, coming out of college, was a lot of video, was filmmaking in Hollywood or television. There wasn't a lot of digital video.
right,
There was some, but there wasn't as much as there is now. And I think the new challenge is, even though people want video, they know they got to have Instagram Reels, they got to have TikToks, they got to have YouTube Shorts. There's also come with that the lowering in price because you can do it on your phone. And why do we have to spend so much? So I think
right,
it's just a new market where there's maybe more appetite, more demand for content creation, but there's also people who don't want to pay as much because they're a small business, a mom
right.
and pop, a local company that's saying, hey, I need to make videos. You do video. Oh, you do photography. Let me hire you.
Right.
And then they don't realize that to get a professional that comes with a higher cost. But I would say that just having the patience, like you were saying, pick the thing you actually want to do and have the patience to get good at that and just keep doing it. One of the biggest things that I realized through my career now is if I'm doing work just to pay the bills, but it's something like weddings is a good example. If I'm doing weddings just to pay the bills, but I don't want to actually be doing weddings, I'm just building my portfolio and my reputation around being a wedding
Right.
photographer, a wedding videographer. I'm only going to get more wedding work.
Hmm.
And you can look at that as a disadvantage, but I would encourage people to look at it as an advantage. If you are the guy that just makes short films or
Hmm.
the girl who does music videos, you can start small, no budget, but just keep doing that thing and you will
Hmm.
build the reputation of, oh, that's the person who does documentaries.
Yeah.
That's the person who does TV commercials. And lo and behold, over time, you will earn your way into that position
Hmm.
rather than chasing the high dollar at the beginning in
Yes.
something you don't even want to be doing.
Right. I found that being like a second shooter or like a second cam, like an operator, a camera operator, is a good way to not only learn, like especially when you're coming up. It's a good way to get on a set that you wouldn't like as starting out. You wouldn't be able to manage something that large, let's say. So just finding local productions, like getting to know the people through social media is probably like the easiest way. At least I've found over the years, just following people like in the area that work around town and then becoming friends with them outside of business. That's one thing that I used to get annoyed by of people, like messaging you like, "Hey, like, are you hiring?" Or like, "Are you, like, hey, next time you shoot, whatever." Like, I don't know you, it's like build a rapport with the community, local community. And then once you have like a solid group, like a friend group, like it makes it a lot easier to start producing content. Borrowing gear is something that is a huge cost saving thing. Lending gear to buddies, and then once you have that like network, then you can leverage like getting more crew if you need it like last minute as well. So it's it's also a little of the networking side. So as much as it is, having the right gear, knowing how to use it and everything, it's also figuring out the other people that can help you or will hire you. So it's a little more than just, it's like, how do I make money? It's like, well, you got to make friends too, you know?
Yeah, but I like that because that's something I didn't quite do, and I probably could have done better in hindsight. Because I think when you're trying to work with a group,
Hmm.
there's this tendency where every young person comes in and says, "I'm a cinematographer." Well, you only really need one of those. You don't need five cinematographers
Right.
on a project.
Hmm.
You need PAs, you need camera assistants, you
Yeah.
need second cam, you need other things that are related to that.
Hmm.
And I think when you're young, you want to put on the director hat. You want to put on, I'm a producer, I'm a this. But really, those are the people who are going to hire you. So they're
Right.
not going to hire their own position. So if
Yes.
you come in a little bit more humble, a little
Hmm.
bit more maybe beneath where you want to be, you can again earn your way up coming in as a second cam or
Right.
just, hey, I'm an assist.
Hmm.
Oh, that person did a good job that last time, but we need them to go shoot this other thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll hire them with a little bit
It's
more responsibility once they've earned it.
yeah, it's a great way to understand gear and learn about like cameras, lighting. If you don't have access to these things, working with people who do, it gives you that extra leg up, and just like the like logging time with that gear and like really understanding it. Because just talking about like technique, it's like you also have to understand the gear and how to use it and how it transports and everything. It's like all of those are beneficial um like things to add to your tool belt. So yeah, I don't know. Get to know people, get to know your gear, and you can make money a lot easier. I would say I definitely spent, and I'm sure you have as well, spent a lot of money on things that like didn't work out. It's like buying gear hoping that it would solve a problem, but maybe didn't, and then you
Mm.
just like waste a little money along the way. So like that's definitely something I wish I knew. Obviously, it's like, oh man, if I only knew that I should only buy or invest in certain types of like stands, right? Only invest in C stands. They will last forever, right? So it's little things like that. Just understanding maybe if you're buying a camera body, know when to sell it,
Hmm.
like upgrade, because that's the one thing that changes every year. And then once a year passes, it gets increasingly more difficult to like sell older gear. And then all of a sudden you have like a mountain of gear, and then you're like, oh man, I really should have just like let go. Like that's something that I don't know. Maybe it's not not necessarily like nostalgic factor, but there are some pieces of gear that have like a sentimental value maybe, and you're like, oh man, I shot so much on this camera, but you really should probably just let it go. Unless you have another use for it. I know we both have old legacy gear that we use for other purposes too. Setting up like a dedicated webcam that looks better than your computer. So finding other uses for legacy gear is another way to not like save money, but make that money that you invested in earlier, just make it, beneficial for years to come.
Yeah, and of course you can always rent out your own personal gear, like to a
Hmm.
friend, someone, a close relation,
Yeah.
where you say, "Hey, you need to borrow this." Okay, yeah, you don't have to pay me the premium that you might get from a rental
Hmm.
company, and there's some risk associated with that. But you can always leverage your gear to make a little bit money,
Yeah.
especially doing things that you're saying, "Oh, I'm gonna set up this webcam or something," because that's the other part of my career that I think was good that I did. I think when it comes to making money from content creation and doing the work that we do, it's about diversifying your income, your revenue, because clients will come and go, projects will come and go. There'll be busy seasons and then there'll be slow seasons. Doing things like stock footage,
Yeah.
but don't rely on that.
Yeah.
Doing
I've
things
never
like
really had success with stock footage.
I've had enough success that it's
Hmm.
been like not a total waste.
Right.
But it's one of those things, don't count on it. Don't
Hmm.
expect that you're going to go hit the jackpot
Yeah.
by making stock footage or starting a YouTube channel
I
or
would,
starting a
yeah.
podcast. None of it will be immediately
No.
lucrative, but all of it is kind of the analogy I always use is planting seeds.
Yeah.
You're always planting seeds and those things will grow over time if you foster them and nourish them and you don't expect it
Hmm.
to be rich on day one. If you're looking to say, how do I make money in content creation?
Hmm.
The answer is you kind of got to wait.
Yeah.
Just keep working,
Hmm.
doing what you do, and it will come.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, people notice. Like,
That's what you tell
if you
yourself, right?
don't think what people notice.
No, no, like I'm saying yourself back in college or
Oh,
just
yes.
like, how
Yeah.
do I go make money? It's like,
Hmm.
just keep working.
Yeah. Just keep
Just
working.
keep working. It will
Get
happen.
better. And like I said, people are watching. Like, they may not be commenting, but they are watching, especially if you are posting content. I would say that's another thing, like being top of mind as far as, let's say you do have a social media account, to get hired more frequently, maybe like post things that look good. If you're a cinematographer or an editor, like that's the one thing that I've always had a pet peeve. If somebody says like, oh, I'm a cinematographer, and they send me an edit, it's like, well, I don't know how much you actually did on any of these things. Like, were you the cinematographer or were you only an AC on that shoot? It's like, what did you do? At least on like a personal page, you can kind of put your work specifically, and it's almost like a portfolio, like on your social media. At least that's how I've been able to get a lot of work. People see the work I do, and then tagging, restaurants, locations, everything, so that if someone is browsing, let's say a restaurant that they might go visit, or like if they're looking like, oh, downtown Phoenix, what kind of restaurants? Wow, that's a really good looking photo. Who took that photo? Oh my goodness! And then all of a sudden, somebody's slide into your DMs, hey, I own a restaurant. Would you consider shooting my restaurant?
Yeah.
So,
Planting seeds and building your reputation, which
mhm.
takes time.
Yeah.
That is the hard answer, that it takes time. You can go be a good salesperson and sell yourself,
Hmm.
and you might get one job that's good paying.
Hmm.
But if you mess that up, that person's never going to recommend you. You're never
Yeah.
going to get a referral, and you've just tarnished your reputation. So then
Yeah.
you got to go do the hard work again of selling yourself again
Yeah.
and closing those deals every single time on the hopes and dreams and the fulfillment of, oh, I'm a professional, pay me lots of money to do
Hmm.
this job. Meanwhile, you're not equipped, you're
Yeah.
not skilled, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the experience to carry yourself well. Meanwhile, the person on the side, not the sidelines, but the person just working in the background,
Hmm.
grinding and doing the hard work, they're not making a lot in the short term, but I think in the long term, they end
Hmm.
up making far more because they've built their reputation over time as that's the best wedding photographer I know. That's the
Hmm.
best commercial DP I know. That's the
Yeah.
best.
I think that might be another thing to hit on is don't charge the highest amount when you're first starting out, because a lot of people are kind of like they'll stay at home. It's like, oh well, I don't get out of bed for less than $1,500 to shoot. It's like, well, if you did get out of bed for less than that, you'd get a lot more practice, and you'd get out there. Your name would get out there a lot more. So maybe that's one other thing. It's like, maybe don't think of yourself as the absolute best, because you can always improve, you can always get better, until you can get to a point where you can legitimately charge a lot of money for your services. Then great. But when you're first starting out, like that mentality of like, I'm not gonna,
Not worth my
yeah, it's not
time.
worth my time. It's like, it is if you go and do like the best work in your mind for yourself, because it's going to be on your reel, right? It's like I've worked with people before where they're like, let's say it's a conference, and you're just like, it's a conference, you don't really need to like, it's whatever, just put a camera in the back of the room. It's like, well, you can do that, but like, don't you think that looks bad, like when you see the final product? So as long as you have a high standard for yourself, other people will see that, and then most likely hire you.
Putting your best foot forward. Putting your best foot forward. That's my timer. So that means I have to go off to the movies here soon. The final thing I would say is I've always thought that it is better to be working than not working. So that example you use of it's not worth my time, I'm not going to get up off the couch because that's beneath me.
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake. I would always pick doing a job working instead of not working. So if you're not working, find ways to work. Maybe it's lowering your price. Maybe it's doing stuff for free. Maybe it's doing whatever you can. Now, it is part of the equation of it's not worth your time when you do have other work lined up. If you're busy and you're working and someone says, hey, can you come do this for $100 for me? You go, my calendar's full. I'm like, no, I can't. If you pay me more, then I can come be available on this date. And that's how you level up. And I don't think people realize they're sitting there waiting. They're waiting for the payday. And I go, no, you go make it by working every single day and it will come.
I will say one quick story. This was back when I was in college applying for jobs. And at the time I was super, I was like, oh man, I want to work with Red Bull. I want to do all these cool things, right? With like GoPro or whatever. And very quickly you realize that there are other DPs that are way more talented and usually take those jobs for like half pay or if not for free because they just want to do those jobs. And you cannot compete with that. So it's something that you really need to get good, and then eventually you will have opportunities like that and be able to accept
Take a pay cut.
take a pay cut to do something you want.
The cool work.
So that goes into the other thing we were talking about, where if you don't want to get out of bed for a certain amount of money in order to do a job, that means that you don't like doing that, and you should not do that. You should find the stuff that you are willing to get out of bed for less money, for free, and then figure out how to make money in that market because that's where you actually want to be.
Absolutely. It's a hard lesson to be learned, and I think it really only comes from experience and wisdom, and people always want the shortcut. They want the magic pill. Tell me just how do I make money?
How do I make money?
And if you made $50 doing a job, that is better than nothing and not working. And I think over time, you just have to climb the ladder that way. You climb the stairs that way, just doing the job, because not only does it make you better, you get more skilled, you end up being able to charge more because you're actually worth it and you've earned it.
The most successful person I know that does video production, they have an agency, they have all the equipment you could ever want, they have a studio, they have everything. They want nothing more than to be able to retire and become a pilot. Like that's all they want. They're making the money, so that's what they can do. So it is kind of funny if people are wondering, it's like, how do I make the most money in video? It's like, well, probably not in video. You'd make the most money.
That's true.
But within video, you can find a level of happiness that you can't find with most other careers. So for me, that's why I got into it. Like I just happen to really love this like creation of like videos and consuming that kind of content. So within that, finding also other things you love to do. So it's if you like going to concerts, figure like, oh my goodness, you can film DJs or whatever. So yeah, it's find what you love to do. Hopefully, if it's video, cool, photography, sweet, and then find also what you love to do, what the subject matter you want to film.
Yeah, it can be lucrative. It just takes time, and you got to earn it, and you kind of got to build it up. And that is what networking is. I think a lot of people think networking is going to mixers and parties and just shaking hands, meet and greet type stuff. No. I've never gotten hired from that, but I've gotten hired literally 10 years later.
From people you have similar interests in?
From someone who hired me 10 years ago to do one job. Yeah. And that lo and behold, a couple years, 5 years, 10 years later, they'll come back and they'll go, hey, I'm at this new company. I'm doing this new thing. Because the more you're just working with people, that is networking, building your reputation, putting good work out there, and they come back.
Friends. Just know that. Friends are more willing to hire friends.
But I've always struggled with this. Friend is not the right word, because I have friends who don't hire me because we're friends. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, it's maybe not friends, but people you have a good like working relationship with. It's like they are more likely to hire you, rehire you again.
It's like a coworker.
It's the best kind of friendship. The kind of friendship like,
but it's not a friend.
Dude, I have friends now because it's like we give each other what we both want. It's like, dude, you provide me the best content, and I'm like, dude, you provide me the best money.
Yes.
What a friendship.
Yeah, but I think when you hear that, what people hear when you say that, because I know what you mean, but when you hear that, people think, oh, I need to get my friends to pay me.
No.
So
Yeah.
you know,
That's actually who is the least likely to pay you.
correct.
Like, yeah.
Correct. Like,
Okay,
oh,
I'm
you gotta
talking-
you gotta
yeah.
make friends, and then that's how you get work. It's like, no. You like you work with
You
people.
make a connection that becomes a friend based on your work.
Correct.
For sure. Like
You do a good
that's-
job,
yeah, you
and a
become
client
friends.
can become a
Yes,
friend,
yes.
and there's a way to earn that up.
Yeah.
But it does. There are
No, yeah.
things that I did in the past that I had no idea how those seeds would grow,
Mm-hmm.
and at this point in time, there's been so many paths, of like how you get where you go and all this stuff in life, and you trace it back and you go, I had no idea at the time that just by saying yes
Oh, yeah.
to some little odd job would actually have resulted in my entire career or my entire, this entire part of my portfolio, and my work came from something
Yeah.
5 years ago that I didn't really think. So I just say yes if you're not working, find ways
And
to
do
be busy
your best.
and do your best.
Like say yes and do your best.
Show up
Because
on
if you
time.
Say yes and don't do your best. Like what's the point?
Right.
You know,
It's under promise and over deliver.
always over deliver.
Always impress people, and that's how you build your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, you'll look back 5 years, 10 years down the road, and you'll go, "Oh wow, like this all worked out.
Yeah.
Had I only known at the time."
Oh yeah.
It's not probably what people want to hear.
No.
They want to
10
hear,
years.
buy this course,
10
pay
years.
pay me, and buy my course, and then you'll make money.
I mean, don't
get
get
rich
wrong.
quick.
If you want to pay us independently, if you want to go to Patreon and send us a ton of money, we will sit down and have a one-on-one
consultant,
with
yeah.
you and consult with
And
you.
tell you the
I will
exact
tell you
same.
exactly what camera to buy, what lenses
But
to
we
buy,
do all that for
what
free.
lights to buy. No, I can do it for free too. I'm just saying if you
really want it.
you really want that, you can find me somehow and I will get that information. to you.
There's no real secrets other than the kind of obvious ones where you say it and people go, "Well, yeah, duh."
Yeah.
Oh, work hard. Well, yeah.
Really though. That's the hardest part.
It's like everything in life. How do I lose weight? How do I do anything? There's everyone knows the answer, but they don't always want to hear it. But that has been true for my entire career. Just saying yes, doing as much as I can, working hard, doing my best, doing the right thing, not trying to scam people, not
Definitely
trying to
don't
trick them
scam
out of their
people.
money.
Real quick, another one. There was one job I did where it was like a small production company, and they canceled last minute. And because I was like, I don't really need the money, so I'm just gonna let them know. It's like, all right, listen, because they even told me, it's like, feel free to send the invoice, we'll get you paid even though you didn't work. And by me telling them nah, it's all right, it's all good. That CEO ended up contacting me after the fact and was like, hey man, really appreciate what you did there. You did us a solid. And then they've hired me since then multiple times over. So it's also putting that good sentiment forward and everything and doing the right thing, right?
Take the high road.
Yeah, take the high road. Be like, listen, I understand. It can be tough, right? It's I don't want to put you out for work that I didn't even do. It's pay me for work I do, and then we'll be square.
Be the good guy.
That's another thing too. It's
Not
just
the villain.
being smart. Make smart decisions.
Yep. You can make money yourself through stuff like stock footage, influencer, content creation, YouTuber, ad revenue type stuff. You can do the freelance game. You can do full time. There are many ways to make money doing this, and you just got to find what works the best for you.